Yeah, YouTubers, Tazman here, bringing you another episode of Foundry VTT from 12, version 12, from the ground up. And so, in our last episode, we finished, I think, most of these buttons, and we got to the two little cogs here, which is game settings. So, this episode, we're probably going to go through the different things. I will tell you right now that in like the settings and stuff, I'll just kind of talk about the ones that I usually like to set, but we'll kind of peruse through all of them, but we're not going to go like word for word in every single one and just dig deep down. Those you can always go to the Foundry site and go, look up what they mean and stuff. This is just going to be a real quick thing. So the first thing you'll see in here is actually this upper section, which is your general information. This will tell you what version of Foundry Virtual Tabletop you're running, which module you're running, or the system you're running, and the version of that system. And then also it has this spot here for active modules to tell you how many active modules we have running. Right now we only have the Koboldworks data inspector, right? So it just says 1. So as you can see, our Foundry Virtual Tabletop right now is version 12, or I guess this is a really weird way to say that. Build, maybe they should put that over there. I don't know, it just seems weird. So it's build 331 of version 12 stable. So it's from the stable branch. Simple world building, and it's version 0.8.2. and active modules 1. So this is probably going to be our biggest part right here, is going into configure settings, just to give you a quick idea of what this contains. Now the more modules you have, the bigger this list will be over on the side. But as you can see, you can actually kind of filter it so you're only getting the information of the module you want. When it's set to all, once I get done with one, it will actually kind of just jump into the other. So here you can see we're all the way down to the last one right there. There's simple world building, and this is all the core above it. So we only have those 3. If we only wanted to see the core ones, now if we go down, we hit the bottom and we only hit the core stuff. So that's that. You can click that obviously to reset all your defaults to whatever they were. So the first thing we're going to look at right here is the configure permissions. Now this is one that, like I said, I'm just going to peruse and give you a very rough idea of what it is. So in here you can see this is the 4 types of players that the game has. There's an actual player. They have the least amount of rights. You have trusted player. These are ones that, you might trust a little more to have some more of the features actually available to them, and they're not going to abuse them. And then of course you have your assistant GM. If you are running a big campaign and you have someone helping you that's, loading monsters and all that stuff, you can have an assistant GM. And then of course you have a game master, which is the main person. All these things are the different things that the permissions give. As you can see, any checks are what they do. So canvas pings are allowed by players, pretty much everyone. Players can also create measured templates. You want them to be able to, say I'm doing a fireball, here's the size. So they're going to need that. They're going to need to display their mouse cursor to show the mouse cursor on everyone's screen and stuff. When they're displaying the ruler measurements and all that fun stuff. Making manual rolls. Now, this one is where, maybe if it's a player and you don't trust them, you don't know that they're always going to be more honest with their rolls, then you don't give that. Where you can give, say, your more trusted players the ability to manual roll. Now, I will say up front that the built-in system that they actually have now for doing manual rolls, I don't like very much. I use one that hasn't said it's fully upgraded, but actually seems to be working in everything that I do. Opening and closing doors, executing scripts and macros, basically, and sending whisper messages. So all these options, you can set them however you want. Give more powers to your players and less whatever you want. After that, we have configure audio and video. This I haven't done it in a long time, so I don't know if it's built in or if you have to. You used to have to go get a certificate, and then you had to do some configuration. I do have a video from the past that I think someone actually said is still working. So you can look at that. So this is one I use Discord personally. I kind of even like it better because it has less clutter on the screen. And I have two monitors, or even when I had one monitor only, I could, just put a small sliver of my Discord audio video, our audio video people, whatever you want to call it, over on the side, and then have the rest of the screen taken up. So personally, I don't use this much anymore. But you have your general settings, your device settings, what devices to use, and in here, I guess they have a not built-in, but they point to a default signaling server, or you can add a custom one if you have that. Like I said, I really don't use this. I prefer the Discord myself. So the default token configuration. So this one's actually pretty good to have. I'm clicking it, but I'm not seeing it pop up. Maybe it's loading? Hello? If I click on that, that comes up. I'm not sure why that's not coming up. But basically, when we were looking at our tokens, if we come in here, it basically is a screen just like when we went into prototype token, where you can set some of the default things. So usually the things I set on my tokens is that the displayed name is always shown, because usually I don't care if players know the name of a token. There's modules that I use sometimes that will mystify the name, so instead of being their actual name, I can just have it be that, and then I click a little thing and it clears it up. So I like that myself. The other one I usually do is under resources. I like to always have displayed, just for the owner with the default tokens, the health bar, so I can see it underneath the token on the screen. All these other ones, usually I don't set much with them. I just leave all those default. Now they have those built-in dynamic rings, so you can have it default where if you drag a token out, it's going to have one of those default rings, which is kind of cool. We'll be going over those at a later date as well. Probably more when we get in actual other systems. So that's that. Not sure why it wasn't pulling up. I'll have to look into that, or maybe it's just a fluke. Then we have the fonts. So these are default fonts for the system. If you have other fonts, you can add them in here. And I believe it's just space, isn't it? I think you just type it in, comma, space, and the next one. This is the default font weight, font size, and style, all that fun stuff. Once again, this is something I'm happy with the default font that it comes with. If you really want it, I guess you could do it. I can't confirm or deny if I set, let's say, Arial in here, that if all my players would have to say Arial, or if this is just a client-only type setting. The next one we have, the combat tracker. So this is your combat tracker. Some of these, why is that not pulling up either? Why is the ones I actually want to talk about not pulling up? Hello? I'm really getting confused on this. So the combat tracker one, and this is one that actually has stuff. It might be because I'm in the simple world building. Let me check on my other system here. Yeah, this is a local one I'm running. It might be because the default system doesn't have these things configured, which is kind of dumb. But anyway, usually in this, one thing I like to do is set, there's something called initiative tiebreaker, I believe it is, where it will use whatever the modifier and roll. So if I roll a d20, roll a 10, and I have a modifier of 5, that's 15. If it's a modifier of 5, I have the stat of 18 on my dex, right? And what it does is it puts a .18 at the end of it. And that way, if someone else rolls 15, it will automatically look and say, oh, their dex value, attribute value, is actually 13. And so it will say, okay, then 18 goes first. This is more stuff I guess we're going to have to go more into once we get into more refined systems. So configure dice, that one will pull up because that's very system agnostic. So this is what I was talking about with the built-in manual rolling. So the default is always to use the virtual dice, and it doesn't even have dice it rolls. It just simply, tells you the value. When I say roll and then do 1d20 plus 6, it just shows you the values, and then of course we go in and actually see what it rolled, but we're not actually seeing the dice itself, which we use. Normally I use Dice So Nice, which is an excellent mod that gives you 3D rendered dice on the table that roll, and will still give you the same values. So anyway, your options here is you have the Foundry digital dice, which is the built-in. We have an option to say digital mezzanine twister. So this is, I believe this is a digital dice that, well, it's not digital, it's actually Bluetooth dice that you can roll on your table, and it will send it to Foundry. For that, you do have to configure it so that your computer knows, the Bluetooth and all that. And then manual input is the other one. And this, like I said, the part I don't like about this is the interface. Like I have to say, oh, D4s are manual input, D6 is manual input, but D8, no, D8's not manual input. So if I were to say, let's just say /R, and we'll do a 1d4, and we'll do a 1d20. So we'll do plus 1d20, right? So if I do this, oh, I didn't hit save. If I do this, now you'll see it pops up this thing saying enter your value for the 4. So we'll go ahead and say we rolled a 2, right? And then it does that. This seems kind of clunky to me. Maybe it's great for you, but there's a mod I use, like I said, that lets you do this a lot easier. It just gives you a little die right here on the corner, and we'll definitely be going over it. And it makes it so all your dice rolls are manual or all are automatic. It doesn't give you the options for the, Bluetooth dice or anything like that, but it just seems better. I mean, this isn't terrible, and if you like it, more power to you. All right, then we have configure art. This is for your compendiums and stuff. So not a lot here, and I haven't really done much with this, but if we go look, we don't even have a compendium in here. Let's do a compendium. It does have some default art, and I'm not sure if this system does. So as you can see, it has this default art, so you can actually change the art. Now I'm assuming in a real system it's going to have other options, and this will be something we look at later on. But yeah, that's basically your configure art. Then we have our document sheets. Now this is where I was pointing out that sometimes you might have tidy sheets or something like that. This is where you can set the default if you want. So you can say, oh, decks will use card deck, right? Or if I had some mod that gives me other type, then I can actually do that. So everything has a default. Right now, because we have no modules that will stick anything else in here, we basically get what we get, and that's pretty much our choice. Once we get some modules in here, we'll actually get more. The pages, obviously, these are how you want them displayed. Tiny MCE, which is kind of the editor. The default is what we get. Markdown is just using Markdown language, which if you watch my Obsidian one, you'll learn a lot about Markdown language and stuff. So that will be that one. Let's go ahead and close that out. Really, these I wasn't planning on going too much into. So disable canvas. This one is one I never use because it makes it so all this pretty background and stuff does not display. So as you can see, the game canvas, which provides visual representation of the virtual tabletop, can be disabled. This allows for low-end machines to use a subset of software features. I'm assuming maybe if you disable canvas, I don't know if you can still use the actor or the other things. I'm not 100% sure. I've never really actually had to. Every machine I've ever used has been able to handle at least that, and there are other things I can do to make it handle it better. Your language preference, obviously, right now there's just English, and I'm thinking that's Polski is Polish, maybe? Your preference scheme, how you want your windows that pop up. Not sure why the game settings screen doesn't follow it, but you have the browser default, which is usually light. There's dark and there's light. Then we have our token ring. So this is when I just set up a token ring, the default is going to be using the still. So the default is still in bronze. I usually don't really do much with that. I'm happy with the still. I like it better than the bronze. Then we can also say the token ring, how it fits. So this is kind of hard to explain, but basically, is your token ring gonna fit the token, or is it going to, no matter how big the token is, actually fit the entire square? So if we had a token that was tiny and it was in here, it would draw a tiny token ring based off of, where the token is. If I had it set to fit the grid, it will take up the entire grid square for that one with the tiny token on it. Something you can just play with, see what you like. Chat bubbles makes it so when a user types something in a chat, it will actually put a chat bubble above their token and have that chat message there as well as in the chat itself. Panda speaker, this one gets very annoying. What this one does is, let's say I have one guy at the top of the map, one guy at the bottom of the map, and I'm kind of in the middle of the map. The guy at the top, he talks, it'll pull the camera all the way up to the top, and then all of a sudden the guy at the bottom says something, or maybe even hits enter, something on accident. It's going to pan me all the way to the bottom. I usually leave this one off. Scrolling text, if there is scrolling text, this is telling it, scrolling status may appear above tokens or other canvas objects to provide text feedback about changes for that object. So if the text is too big or something, it can scroll that text. I've never really noticed this doing anything, to tell you the truth. And so I just leave it basically how it is. This one as well, usually don't mess with it. This one I do like, especially if you're controlling more than one token on the screen. This just makes it so I can just left click somewhere else on the screen and it unselects all the tokens. Other words, what you have to do is actually click on the screen and do a quick little drag over nothing to do that. So I definitely like that. Then we have our performance mode. This is one of the things you can do that will actually change, for lower end computers. You can actually change this. So maximum is the highest. There's a high, medium, low. This will be how light is rendered, how shadows are rendered, and things like that. As far as tokens and the map background and stuff like that, I haven't really seen that be an issue with this. I've never seen that really seem to get really pixelated or anything like that. Your max frame rate, I don't know if it goes higher than 60. I haven't seen it go higher than 60. But if your system, can only handle 30, you can actually set that, and that will kind of limit it so it will only do 30. I've always just left this on. This one we actually set up in one of our first sessions. The show FPS meter I really like, which is this guy down here, telling me how many frames per second I am actually getting. Font size, obviously the size of the font. Photosensitivity mode will make it so that it limits, flashing stuff, fast moving and flashing, so that, if someone is prone to seizures or something like that, it might help ease that. So they might want that. Token drag vision. This one I usually leave off. This is where I drag the token and it's calculating the vision as we go. Now, one thing that this could be negative is, let's say we drag a token as GM, we can go through walls and we drag it through a room to the other side of a room because they say they went around the hallway or whatever. Well, with the token drag vision on, they're going to be able to see as their token goes in through that room, everything in that room. Whereas if it's off, it should only show you where they start, and once they land or where they end, it should actually render it there as well. Token vision animation is the lighting changes and such when they are being moved. Once again, this is something you can turn off for lower end machines. Light source animations, same type of thing. The flashing lights or the flickering of a fire, something like that. Turning that off, lower end machines will love you. The zoom texture anti-aliasing, that just helps so we don't get lots of jagged stuff as we zoom in and out. When you're editing notes and stuff, creating your character, this is how often it will auto save in that editor. Now, this is when you're like, let's say you're doing your background on your character and typing it out. This isn't when you're doing your attributes. This is just when you're in the prose editor, the prose mirror editor. Show tool clip on hover. As it says here, this one's one that just is just as good. So configure weather tool clips should appear when hovering over tools in the sidebar. So if we hover, see all those little tool clips there? Animate roll tables. So when we made our roll table, it was very basic on directions. It had an animation that showed you, kind of like it choosing randomly, going up and down the list. And that's what that's doing. I don't know, maybe I could do it real quick. So you'll see it kind of look like it's going up and down or down. That's it right there. All right, square grid diagonals. So this is how diagonals are handled. Equidistant is the default. I personally like the 1-2-1, which is saying movement from the first time you move. This counts as 5 feet, so the diagonal is 5. The second time you go diagonal, it's 10. Third time, 5, 10, 5, 10. Other systems, they consider it's 10 always. So it would be like going here and here, because that's 5 and 5, and then 5 and 5, 5 and 5, so on and so forth. So you can play with that, look and see. I mean, there's lots of different options. I'm not going over all of them. Then we have the grid template shapes, as it says here. A lot of this stuff is pretty explanatory just by reading the text underneath. So configure whether the area of effect of a template should be grid based instead of Euclidean. Euclidean? I think that's how you say that. So that's saying where your templates, like if I did an angle, it would go here and here and here. Or Euclidean would be like it would actually, anything it touches would be considered. And then of course you have the default. Are cone templates considered round on the end, or are they flat? So the default's round. Then we get into simple world building. Very little there. It just basically has the inactive fluids such as D20 plus. I don't even know too much about this. Enable shorthand macro. Syntax which allows referencing. I don't really even play with this, to tell you the truth. We're not going to go over Koboldworks, but I just wanted to go over the main system stuff. Plus, we're hauling through our time faster than I thought. We're at 24 minutes, so I'm going to kind of really cruise through the rest of it. That was going to be the big one. So obviously your configure controls is your keybinds and stuff. You can come in here, set them, change them, whatever you want. Modules, right now you'll only have one, but you'll see that you can filter them by all your modules, active modules and inactive modules. You can filter by typing in a thing. So if we wanted to look up our Kobold, there we go. Koboldworks right there. Pretty self-explanatory. Edit world, this is like I think I told us about this. I told you about this earlier. This is where you can, that splash screen at the very beginning where you set up your world, you can actually go and do that again. I think if I do that, it exits, and I don't want to do that. User management, this is where we actually set up our multiple users, our nobody and Tazzy players, right? And you can set up those permissions. Tour management, this is when you first launch it, it will have a mini tour. You can turn it on and off. These are all going to go to web pages. Invitation links, as I said in the first video, I'm not going to do that because I don't want my IP or the information for this table to get out right now. But you click on that, it will give you what your LAN or your local area network IP is, and then it will give you underneath it whatever the external IP, what the world would see. Then we have logout and return setup. So I think that does it for this episode. It was kind of long, sorry. But we covered the things I wanted to cover. In the next episode, we're going to start this, and this is actually where it's going to start getting fun when we get into the actual controls. I don't even remember what I called this. The control panel, the control sidebar, because these are controlling all different types of things. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hope you learned something new. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Aside from that, comment, like, and subscribe. Click that little notification bell. Join my Discord. Tell other people about my channel. Have them check it out. If they like what they see, they can sub. We grow the channel. Everybody wins. Everybody's happy. And that is it, my friends. Until next time, I'll be seeing you later. Bye.